2015, how well do you remember that year? 2015, fascinating. Or was it 2016? I think it was 2016, actually. So 2016, that was the same year that the Les Miles story happened. 2016, I got a lot of stories from, for whatever reason. The situation is this. Lane Kiffin is the offensive coordinator at Alabama. They're in the SEC championship game against Florida. I'm at the game, covering the game. So the talk leading up to that week was Lane Kiffin is in communication with everywhere from LSU, because remember, Ed Orgeron was interim there, and it was looking like he was going to get the permanent head coach tag, and who is he going to hire as his offensive coordinator? Is he going to get Lane Kiffin as his offensive coordinator? Week goes on. There are unsubstantiated reports that it's a done deal after the SEC championship game. He's going to go, he being Lane Kiffin, is going to go to LSU. But then, all of a sudden, a guy named Tom Herman, I think, leaves Houston. We got an opening at Houston. That'd be a really good G5 job for Lane Kiffin to get. Oh, here's some reports. It's Wednesday, it's Thursday. Reports, Lane Kiffin, Houston. So Kiffin's name is linked to like 10 jobs. That's Jimmy Sexton, his agent, doing his job. More on Sexton in about 20 seconds. So game ends. Lane Kiffin has given his word that he is not going to speak to anyone until after the SEC championship game. Now, I can confirm, as much as I can right now, that Lane Kiffin kept his word. And here's how I can confirm it for you. He literally meant, I'm not going to talk to anyone until the SEC championship game ends. So I find Kiffin after the game. I decide to follow him. Kiffin, when Alabama would win games, I've been on the field with him winning SEC championships, national championships. It was always funny. Lane Kiffin would never be on the stage, and he'd never be around the stage. Lane Kiffin would walk about 30 or 40 yards away, back where media would hang out. And when I say media, I mean the ones who aren't up on the riser taking the pictures. Me, in other words. I just kind of lurk like a loiterer. Well, Kiffin would do the same thing. And so he would just kind of stand back and he'd watch. Just kind of like a fan. He'd just watch. So he did that. And then crowd sort of starts to disperse. The confetti has fallen down. I follow Lane Kiffin down the tunnel. In the tunnel, I kid you not, is his agent, Jimmy Sexton, who is holding a cell phone with his hand over the speaker. The only thing I don't know is who was on the call, but he handed that phone to Lane Kiffin as soon as Kiffin walked down the tunnel. And Kiffin took a call and right then and there began negotiating whatever he was negotiating. Now, as you and I know, it turns out that he did not go to LSU. It turns out he did not go to Houston. It turns out he ended up going to Florida Atlantic. I don't know that FAU was on the phone, but I do know that there was a phone call waiting for him as soon as he stepped off the field in the Georgia Dome. Rest in peace, Georgia Dome, by the way. I know a lot of you like Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's not a bad facility. I do miss the Georgia Dome, but I digress. So then there's this other aspect to this whole thing. Lane Kiffin has an agent named Jimmy Sexton. Half the world at this level of college football has the same agent, and that includes his boss at the time, Nick Saban. So Nick Saban walks by them, and it's as if they don't even know each other. Saban just walks into the locker room, goes to do his press availability, comes out of his press conference, walks back past, and I remember thinking, only in this world would this be considered normal. But yet there it was. Now, I'm not foolish enough to believe Saban didn't already know what was going on. In fact, I would lead you to believe he very much did know what was going on, or maybe he just couldn't have cared less. Because as you recall, Kiffin goes on to be the offensive coordinator for the semifinal and then is fired. This is not a story. This is not some 30 for 30 in fantasy world. This really happened. Like Alabama won a semifinal game, fired their offensive coordinator the week of a national championship game lead up, and then almost won a national championship. Like that kind of stuff happens in college football, and it happened with Alabama. But that was interesting to see. There's a lot of Lane Kiffin stories, obviously. Don't have time for them all.